The pre-dawn silence of Willow Vale, a rugged expanse of ranchland tucked against the rolling bluffs of western Nebraska, shattered at 4:53 a.m. on a biting February morning in 2026. A bone-rattling explosion tore through the quiet, shaking the weathered timbers of my family's homestead, jarring my teeth, and sending a framed tintype of my great-great-grandparents crashing to the floor. My heart slammed against my ribs as I bolted upright, disoriented, my first thought a gas line rupture or a meteor strike. Then came the frantic lowing of cattle and the sharp, relentless barking of my collies, yanking me from bed. I fumbled into jeans and boots, snatching a heavy mag light, my mind racing to make sense of the chaos. Outside, the air was thick with acrid smoke and a chemical bite-of-gunpowder's meaner cousin, sharp and wrong. 100 yards down my gravel drive, where the sturdy oak gate of Crescent Moon Ranch should have stood, an angry orange glow flickered, twisted steel and splintered wood dancing in the wreckage. I'm Lucas Harper, 44, fifth-generation steward of this 400-acre legacy, a tapestry of sweat and sacrifice woven through a century and a half of harsh winters and endless summers. That gate, carved with our family's Crescent brand, wasn't just an entrance, it was a vow, a line in the dirt. And the fools who blew it to kingdom come? They had no idea the county sheriff was asleep in my guest room, not a stone's throw from their reckless stunt with what could only be a homemade bomb. There they stood, silhouetted against the smoldering ruin, their cheap tactical vests glinting like costume props in the dawn's. Hey, Sharon Caldwell's so-called security force from Pine Ridge Estates, the cookie-cutter luxury sprawl that had crept onto my eastern border a decade back like a blight of beige stucco. Sharon, the 60-year-old HOA president, had been gunning for my ranch since her gated enclave arrived, her pressed khakis and power-hungry smirk a poor match for our hayfields and longhorns. Her hired muscle, Carl Jenkins, Bulldog, and Roy Miller, Stonewall, fancied themselves lawmen, oblivious that they'd just fast-tracked themselves to felons before the rooster crowed. Sheriff Amos Tate, my high school wrestling partner and a man who could stare down a grizzly, burst onto the porch in flannel pajama bottoms, his badge pinned crookedly to his undershirt, service revolver steady in his grip. "County Sheriff, hands where I can see 'em," he bellowed, his voice slicing through the cattle's panicked calls like a blade. Jenkins fumbled, dropping a clunky remote detonator as if it had scalded him, his florid face blanching to chalk. "Sheriff? What the hell you doing here?" he squeaked, his bravado evaporating. Miller stood rigid, his usual blank stare fracturing into raw panic. "Official HOA business," Jenkins stammered, clutching at straws. "MS. Caldwell ordered us to clear this illegal gate. It's blocking our easement." Amos's eyes narrowed to slits, his drawl icy. "Caldwell ain't got the pull to order a lemonade stand, let alone a bomb. You're under arrest for malicious destruction, illegal explosives, reckless endangerment, and a laundry list of felonies I'll sort out at the station." The cuffs snapped shut, a sound as crisp and final as a gavel's crack, sweeter than any dawn I'd ever seen. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment idiocy, it was the fiery crescendo of Sharon's crusade to erase Crescent Moon Ranch from her pristine horizon. Pine Ridge Estates brought water-hogging lawns and sculpted hedges, their residents griping about the honest musk of manure and the lowing of my herd at sunrise, as if dawn should bend to their sleep schedules. My favorite was their formal complaint about my 70-year-old John Deere tractor, its chipped green paint deemed a visual affront when parked near our shared fence. Sharon, a former marketing VP whose career imploded in a 2012 ethics scandal, ruled her HOA like a petty monarch, her tailored blazers barely containing her inflated sense of dominion. She'd corner me at early community meetings, her voice dripping condescension as she called Pine Ridge the Riviera of the Plains, dismissing our legacy as a blemish on her curated utopia. I tried playing nice, explaining that our ranch predated their deeds by a century, that cattle don't keep office hours. Her tight smile and patronizing nod told me she wasn't listening. She saw us as the unsightly service entrance to her imagined paradise. The complaints started small. Notes pinned to our fence about weeds that were native prairie grasses, demands to relocate a weathered trough because its patina clashed with her community aesthetic. I filed her letters in a folder I dubbed Sharon's Shenanigans, burning the originals in my fire pit, their pompous letterhead curling to ash. But her annoyance grew fangs, and when she rolled out her security department, I knew we were in for a fight. Carl Jenkins, a barrel-chested ex-bouncer with a taser obsession, and Roy Miller, a lanky former security guard who moved like he was auditioning for a zombie flick, became Sharon's enforcers. They patrolled in a golf cart tricked out with flashing lights, looking like they'd raided a surplus store for their tactical vests and novelty badges. We called them Bulldog and Stonewall, their swagger as laughable as it was menacing. They issued citations for excessive livestock vocalization during Pine Ridge's quiet hours and aesthetic disharmony over a patch of clover, as if my fields answered to their bylaws. I knew they had no legal standing. Me ranch was free of their HOA's grip, but Sharon's game was intimidation, betting I'd fold under pressure. I didn't. I doubled down, mounting high-def cameras along the fence, their lenses catching every glare and trespass. My ranch hands, led by young Tommy Reed, recorded every encounter on their phones, building a dossier thicker than a winter coat. I called my lawyer, Ellen Monroe, a sharp-witted friend from college who ate property disputes for breakfast. Over beers, she cackled at Sharon's antics. "Classic small pond tyrant," she said, shaking her head. "Legally, they're toothless, but they'll make your life hell with petty stunts. Document everything: letters, citations, their little golf cart parades. We'll bury 'em in their own nonsense if they go too far." Her words were prophetic. The first real showdown came when Bulldog and Stonewall blocked my ATV on my own land, their cart parked like a barricade. "Restricted zone, sir," Jenkins barked, hand on his taser, his vest straining. Miller loomed, silent, his stare unnerving. I kept my voice even, phone recording. "This is Crescent Moon Ranch, boys. You're trespassing. Move that go-kart before I call the sheriff." Jenkins puffed up, citing Sharon's patrol authority, but my warning of felony conspiracy charges camera rolling cracked their nerve. They retreated, muttering about reports, but the sting of backing down didn't sit well with Sharon's ego. A week later, her lawyer's letter landed, claiming my gate violated a non-existent easement and community standards, demanding its removal in 7 days, or they'd remove the obstruction and bill me. Ellen's response was a masterclass in legal savagery, citing our airtight deeds and telling Sharon to pound sand. Sent certified mail for maximum sting. Sharon signed for it, and I pictured her face purpling with rage. The deadline passed, my gate stood firm, and I thought she'd slink off. I underestimated her delusion. She wasn't just blowing smoke, she was rigging dynamite. The week after Ellen's letter, a heavy quiet settled over the fence line, like the hush before a twister. Bulldog and Stonewall kept their patrols, glaring from their cart, but stayed on their side. I scanned the horizon more, a knot of unease tightening in my gut. Friday, Amos called, his voice weary from sheriffing. "Need a breather, Lucas? Your ranch still got that quiet you brag about." I chuckled, venting about Sharon's goons. "Come fish the creek," I said, promising peace. We mended fences, swapped old stories, and ignored Bulldog's binoculars at the gate Saturday afternoon. Tommy reported they'd parked there for an hour, just watching. "They're trying to rattle you," Amos said, sipping iced tea on the porch. "Don't bite." That night, a prickle of foreboding kept me restless, like the air before a storm. "Just Sharon's nonsense," Amos reassured, but urged vigilance. I never dreamed her security would escalate to blowing up my gate with a bomb that could have leveled a barn. The blast's aftermath was a blur of flashing lights and bellowing cattle. Amos's deputies cordoned off the crater, the bomb squad confirming commercial-grade blasting agents enough to kill if shrapnel had flown wider. Jenkins, cuffed in a cruiser, spilled everything, claiming Sharon ordered the gate's removal and sourced the special fireworks through a shady online deal. Miller stayed mum, but the detonator Jenkins dropped was a death sentence for their defense. Deputies raided Sharon's mansion, catching her in monogrammed silk pajamas, her bluster collapsing as cuffs clicked. "I'm the HOA president," she wailed, but Amos's Warren conspiracy, illegal explosives, destruction shut her down. Pine Ridge residents gawked, their morning jogs halted by the spectacle of their queen's walk of shame. Ellen unleashed a civil suit against Sharon, Jenkins, Miller, and the HOA, our cameras, citations, and deputy reports forming a fortress of evidence. The HOA's insurer, staring down felony charges, settled fast a hefty sum for a new forged steel gate, damages, distress, and legal fees. Jenkins and Miller, turning on Sharon, drew 5 years each. Sharon, the architect, got 9, her Escalade likely scrapped before her first prison tray. The HOA board imploded, new leaders groveling, their security, cart sold for parts. Pine Ridge softened, even asking my take on drought-tolerant grasses. I rebuilt the gate, steel on concrete, a monument to endurance. Amos got his quiet weekend later, joking my ranch was a demilitarized zone. Willow Vale exhaled, the story fueling HOA reform debates across counties. Sharon's paper crown burned in her own blaze, proving real law outlasts play cops. Was Lucas's lawsuit justice or overreach? Should Sharon's sentence be softer or tougher? Can Pine Ridge stay humbled, or will new Sharons rise? Share your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for stories that demand your stand.